War. War never changes.
Some kind of war junkie?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to the War 102 podcast, where we explore the doctrine, theory, philosophy, and history of warfare. I'm your guide, Paul Darling, and I want to share what I learned in nearly 30 years in uniform. So let's get to learning about the most influential activity in human history, war. Welcome to Episode 7, Land Warfare, Part 1. Today starts a multi-part series on the basics of fighting on land, in the air, and on sea. I start with the land because war started on the land, and I am, at heart, a soldier. I've researched deeply on air power and have, ironically, published more articles on air support and air power, two different things, by the way, than on ground combat. I even published an article in the Proceedings of the United States Naval Institute. I find the subject of war and all its domains obviously fascinating, but I face today's episode with a struggle. Where to start? I have spent 3 decades learning primarily about ground warfare, and I still remain ignorant on so much that it entails. My intent was 15 minutes, but I find this impossible. So this will be part 1 of 4 on just the briefest introduction to land warfare. First and most importantly, ground combat uniquely is a human contest of art, fighting for the mind of the enemy. The air, sea, and space domains are scientific battles of machines and technology. In the absence of the machines, there is no combat outside the land domain. So the thinking of those dedicated to the other domains have both a more scientific outlook to war, as well as a fixation on the machines required. These are not indictments. In fact, they are absolutely necessary to the unique challenges air, sea, and space demand. And as I have tried to transcend my Neanderthalic fixation on ground combat, many outstanding airmen and sailors have contributed immensely to ground combat theories and applications. But where we start in our journey will forever shape our basic outlook on war and combat. I speak of the art and science of war, as ground conflict is an art much more than a science. A working definition of art is demanded. Art is a product that is both original and has impact upon the audience. Art must produce something. That something may be fleeting, transcendental, a moment on stage or film, or that greatest stage of all, battle. There must be originality to it. Otherwise, you are a craftsman, which isn't bad. The vast majority of us are craftsmen at our trade, and we need craftsmen. But the craftsman focuses on the craft. The artist focuses, or should, on the audience. And that product must have impact. As war, and ground combat in particular, is a struggle between two sovereign entities, to focus on your craft and to ignore your audience, the enemy, the vast majority of us are craftsmen at our trade, and we need craftsmen. But the craftsman focuses on his craft. The artist focuses, or should, on the audience. And that product must have impact. As war, and ground combat in particular, is a struggle between two sovereign entities, to focus on your craft and to ignore your audience, the enemy, is a route to failure. Back to the principles of war and surprise. If you laboriously adhere to your doctrine and training, repeating what has been done for centuries past, it will be exceedingly difficult to achieve surprise. And of all the principles of war, surprise has the most disproportionate impact upon the mind of the enemy. Battle is terrifying as it is, even when you know what is coming, whether it be artillery falling on you or machine guns opening up when something shows up unexpected, a new weapon or technology perhaps, especially from an unexpected direction. The result can be paralyzing to a commander unprepared for it, and at the moment, the artist who put his enemy in that position can be triumphant, even if at every other level he proves to be inferior in strength. To be strong and nimble mentally is the most important strength of all. My definition will not be universally accepted, but as the subject is art, that is to be expected. Okay, 1/3 in and I still haven't told you anything, so let's get to it. Ground combat focuses on a few principles that can apply in the other domains, but are different on the ground. First, you want to find, fix, and destroy the enemy. The first, find, can be more difficult than one might initially think. If you are facing a competent enemy, they will be working hard on their principles of war. Security, camouflage, deception, stealth, discipline, all combine to ensure the enemy can't find you, and you can't destroy what you can't find. They move at night. They put out patrols in an economy of force to both try to find you and to stop you from finding them. Whenever you are trying to do something, never forget your enemy is trying to do the same. So take every precaution to keep him from finding, fixing, and destroying you. And also never forget that it is only the final action, destroy, which has any value. These are sequential steps to achieve the ultimate objective, the destruction of your enemy. Next is fix, which means different things to different people. You are not neutering your enemy, although this would be an effective tactic to achieve surprise, admittedly. In the land domain, fix means to hold the enemy in place. To the airman, it means to verify their location, now and in the future, which to me seems suspiciously similar to find. Of course, an aircraft that isn't moving is already destroyed, if not now, then in the immediate future. So the land definition has little meaning in air combat. So fixing is removing one of the two factors in the fundamental tactic of ground combat, maneuver, and the other being fire. You usually fix the enemy by using fires. Now we have to define fires. Fires are anything you aim at the enemy that degrades or destroys him or his ability to fight. And just as destroy is the ultimate end state of find, fix, and destroy, fires are the only means by which you can physically destroy the enemy. You maneuver to avoid the enemy's fires, while also positioning your forces to bring the most effective fires on him. The highest achievement in ground combat at the tactical level is to fix the enemy in place and bring effective fires upon him while he cannot do the same to you. A unit in the defense might appear to be weaker, as finding and fixing have already been accomplished by the attacking units. Initially, yes. However, let's dive a little deeper. First, it is difficult to find a well-defended unit's actual emplacements. You may know the general direction, but that isn't enough to bring effective fires. You can shoot in the general direction. In fact, that is most shooting in combat, but that won't destroy the enemy. Doing so generally can and will fix them, as moving under fire, even ineffective fire, is exceedingly difficult for even the best trained infantryman, and nigh impossible for the green recruit. But fixing the enemy in a prepared defense does nothing. They are already fixed, and properly prepared defenses are exceedingly difficult to destroy. Meanwhile, the attacking unit is being engaged by the defenders. Now the defenders have found their enemy, and if they are maneuvering, destroying them in open areas if they have prepared the battlefield properly. Preparing the defense is not just about digging holes to fight and hide in, though I strongly recommend doing so. Rather, it is about what we call shaping the battlefield, changing the existing landscape through obstacles like barbed wire, landmines, or clearing out trees and brush, which would allow the enemy to remain hidden, and thus removing the find from our initial trinity. A good defense will force the enemy to go through what we call the engagement area, a sterile euphemism for a killing field, where we can kill him and he can't kill us. And this is easier in the defense than in the offense when the opponents can freely engage each other equally. To maneuver under fire, as noted earlier, is perhaps the hardest challenge for the maneuver forces. Maneuver forces being the term for infantry, armor, and their commingled supporting forces. It is the discipline, training, and leadership, which leads to high elan and esprit de corps, that allows maneuver under fire. Quick historical detour here. As World War II was shaped by the experience of World War I, and World War I was shaped by the experience of Clausewitz and Jomini, they were in turn shaped by Napoleon. And Napoleon was shaped by Frederick the Great, the legendary Prussian commander. Frederick in his youth focused on art and music and philosophy rather than war, much to the consternation of his father, the king. I think these are fine subjects for reasons that should become apparent for the would-be military commander. Frederick was famous for a specific tactic in battle, the attack in echelon or oblique, where his line of forces would move in sections from one side and moving forward in sequence, not simultaneously to the other. and the one moving first would be the strongest, the mass, attempting to turn the flank or side of the enemy's line. The succeeding echelons were an economy of force, primarily focused on fixing the enemy, while the main effort on one side would turn the enemy's position, break their lines, and create a rout. But this tactic was secondary. The true genius of Frederick was the discipline by which his main effort would march stoically into the guns of the enemy, and also Frederick's leadership. He stayed with the main effort, on horseback. He had over a dozen horses shot out from under him. With their king by their side and with their brotherhood forged through exhaustive, thorough training, with unmatched discipline, they were able to move forward. Many lesser generals focused on the tactic of the oblique attack and missed the true lesson of Frederick's greatness, the superiority of the individual Prussian soldier, forged into unbreakable units, capable of marching in perfect formation in the face of the enemy's guns. Big brass ones there, boys. Napoleon was able to craft the same spirit through both his unquestioned leadership and the spirit of the revolution, where the French soldiers felt they weren't fighting for a distant and uncaring king, but rather a nation to which they belonged. This chauvinistic nationalism led to the seemingly senseless slaughter of World War I, where the generals, well schooled in the psychological lessons of Frederick and Napoleon, thought that the inherent superiority of their soldiers' militaristic nature would carry the day in the face of Maxims and modern artillery. Craftsmen rather than artists, lacking the originality and vision required for success at the highest levels. But when the defender and attacker are roughly the same level of training, the defending unit reigns supreme and will wait for the foolish attacker to crush themselves against the deadly shoals and rocks of defense. And then, when the attacker's spirits are broken and their forces decimated, counterattack with speed and shock and fury. To paraphrase Napoleon, the entire secret to battle is a well-prepared defense followed by a rapid and audacious counterattack. The attacking commander, instantly thrust into the unplanned role of defender, now must mentally adjust instantly to this surprise and rally his forces to now defend, only in terrain not of their choosing and with no preparation. A scant number of commanders in history have proven up to this challenge, which is why, of the million or so generals since Frederick, we remember so few. So back to our initial attacker versus defender. While the defender is inherently found and fixed, they are exceedingly difficult to destroy. Likewise, while the attacker may not initially be found nor fixed, if they attack into the teeth of a prepared defense, they will be found, fixed by effective enemy fires, as well as the shaping of the battlefield, and destroyed by the defender bringing effective, lethal fires. And, at the precise moment known only to the battlefield artist, they will themselves be attacked, only not in prepared positions, and from, ideally, an unsuspected location. Thus ends the first part of our introduction to ground combat. As always, I'd like to know your thoughts, but ask your patience on criticisms until completing this 4-part overview. Thanks for joining us today. If you liked what you heard, please like, subscribe, rate, and comment. Most importantly, share with your friends. Join the conversation at the War 102 subreddit, and check out the War 102 Buzzsprout website for links to more information and supporting videos. Send me an email at war102podcast@gmail.com. I look forward to your comments and hope you join us again next week. See you then.